Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back. I'm Maggie McAlpine, Director of Cybersecurity Partnerships and Evangelism here at Seceon. Thank you for joining us for the final session in our 2026 Cyber Battlefield series. Today's session, The Future of APTs, AI-Powered, Adaptive, and Unstoppable, looks ahead at how advanced threats are evolving and what that means for security teams moving forward. I'm pleased to welcome Tom Ertel, SVP of Technical Sales at Seceon, who will be leading today's session. As a quick reminder, please feel free to submit questions in the Q&A at any point during the session, but we'll be addressing them at the end. With that, Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Maggie. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Uh, I'll introduce myself quickly here. I'm the SVP Technical Sales Strategic Accounts. Couple fun facts about me. If you look closer, you can see a lot of gray. I've been around a long time. I actually started working in the 80s. I worked for the second largest computer company in the world, which you've never heard of. It was called Digital Equipment Corp. In my second or third year there, I started working on this thing called a personal computer for them. IBM had come out with its personal computer, and so we were trying to build our own. And we had to pick an operating system. So this gentleman kept coming into our office trying to pitch us this thing called MS-DOS. We chose not to go with it at first, but and yes, that gentleman was Bill Gates. He was a nerdy young guy I, I don't think he had dropped out of Harvard at the time. So yeah, I've been around a long time. I've been in uh, networking, telecoms, and the last 10 years or so in security. So again, little fun fact about me. Let's get into today's session. Let me share my screen. So we have two topics today. Let's get this cleaned up. Okay, that should be full screen. Two topics today. The first is going to be an APT, APT31 in particular. And then we're going to talk about some exciting new stuff that we're doing, future proofing DTM, sort of the whole agentic AI and what the immersion of it and emergence of it, and what we're going to do to help protect people going forward with all the new AI agents that are being deployed everywhere. So let's start with the APT31. We've talked about in a bunch of these sessions, we've talked about other advanced persistence threats. Some of them, ransomware as a service, some of them in the financial markets. To me, this particular type is sort of the most dangerous, right? A lot of the existing ones, the ransomware as a service, their goal was to get in, find some data, encrypt it, extort you, get some money, and move on. This particular APT is a state-sponsored attack. It's actually out of the People's Republic of China, but its goal is to stay low and slow. And basically, you can see here the different targets they have. The government agencies looking to steal classified information, monitor top secret communications, critical infrastructure, right? The ability to disable whether it's power distribution, water, financial markets. So their goal is to get in, hide, pop up occasionally, collect some new information, exfiltrate that and just go back into hiding mode so that they want to stay there as long as possible, ideally forever. So you can see the many different sectors that they can influence and have influenced. So this is an ongoing, I think this has been around at least 10 years, this particular threat. And so what we're going to talk today about is, how you can potentially stop it. What do you need to do to better protect yourself against it? So some of the techniques they use, spear phishing, which everyone's familiar with the term phishing. We've all probably even been taken advantage of by it, where you get an email where it has something in it that says, okay, of interest to you, and you click on a link, you click on a file, whatever it might be. Spear phishing is much more focused, right? It's actually using social engineering to find out as much as you can about a specific individual and target a very specific person so you can make entrance into their system, into their network. So again, in this particular topic, it's basically turning into a government network, into a military network. So they're targeting very specific people, and they're using it by actually, again, doing social engineering. An example of this was it wasn't this particular APT, but the casino in Vegas that was, I think it was MGM Grand. They used spear phishing, where they actually simulated the voice of a particular employee, got somebody in the help desk to actually agree to give them a new MFA so they could get back in, and then in they went. So that's a very specific tactic for this type of APT. And then you can see some others, 0 days and so forth. So recently, and this will be part of the second part of the discussion. Google reported that this particular attacker is using its chatbot, Gemini, to analyze vulnerabilities within. So they get in and they can analyze the vulnerabilities within a particular customer's environment. So they actually use, something that the customer's using, a chatbot that they're using to then go in and sort of attack their own environment, to check for vulnerabilities and then plan attacks against them. So how can you stop this? So I'm going to back up a little bit here and talk about the MITRE ATT&CK framework. This is a high-level picture of what they call the tactics, right? So there's 14 different tactics. They start from reconnaissance, work your way all the way down to what's called impact, and it's different stages of an attack. This is actually a picture of all the techniques under the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Across the top, there's 14 that I just mentioned, but then there's hundreds of different techniques under. And here, just if you look closely, you can see I just zoomed in. So reconnaissance was one of the first tactics, but then some of the techniques under that are scanning, gather victim hosts, and so forth. So, why am I talking about this? Well, here's an example of an alert where we've tracked the activity that has been incoming against the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and you can see those orange or red and black boxes across the top here. The closer to the left that you can detect an attack, right? The closer to the reconnaissance phase, initial access, execution, the better, right? If it gets all the way up to exfiltration and impact, now obviously you're in a lot more trouble. You might have your files encrypted. You might have already been ransomed. So the goal is to detect activities that in the early stages of the attack, and then be able to go in and take action and stop it. Okay, so that's how sort of the MITRE ATT&CK framework plays into this. So you want to collect all the telemetry possible to be able to stop this. Most solutions out there, all of your EDR vendors, they collect logs, right? And logs are a very important part of detecting what's happening in an environment. But in this particular APT case, they're not enough, right? Because they're laying low, they're going slow, they're doing things to stay hidden from your EDRs, from a lot of your solutions. You really need real-time telemetry, right? What we call net flows. You really need to be able to see how traffic's moving, how potentially the attackers are moving within the environment without getting log updates. So what's important is to collect as much information as possible out of your environment. How do you get net flows, right? So you can see here across the top, you have firewalls typically, you have routers, you have switches. Those devices generate logs like everything else, but then they also generate what's called a net flow. It's basically an encapsulation of a transaction saying this IP talked to this IP from these locations for this long, copied files of this size, and so forth. So that's the real-time telemetry that I'm alluding to. So this particular APT, APT31, uses those techniques, very efficiently to try to stay hidden, right? So you can see here's just examples of initial access, GitHub payload delivery. This is basically sort of a spear phishing link, right? Where you can actually, they come in through GitHub and a cloud-based GitHub, command and control, and then, make their way actually to a very specific user with a very targeted attack. Password spraying, again, something you're only going to see if you're collecting net flows. You're not going to get this from logs. So all of these things, web exploits, network scanning, remote system probing, FTP, all these different techniques are used by APT31 and are only detectable with net flows. Okay, so I'm just trying to highlight that It's vital for most APTs, most ransomware as a service attacks, but in particular, these ones that really are trying to hide themselves and stay in your environment indefinitely. It's very important that you're able to see, data movement, encrypted traffic movement, file transfer, uh, file transfers, and so forth. Things that are only detectable with NetFlows. So now let's talk about how is Seceon going to help you detect any of these APTs, any of these ransomware as a service attacks. We've introduced this functionality called breach attack simulation. And basically what this does is this will load an agent onto an endpoint in your environment, either an existing endpoint or one you create specifically for this purpose. And that agent will simulate that attack. Okay, it'll go do all the different activities, all the different techniques that attack would typically do, and then show you how your environment reacted to that. Okay, was it able to block those things? Was it able to stop them, or did they actually get executed and work their way through? So let's take a look at the demo itself. Let me just move over to the demo system. All right. Hopefully you're able to see this. So, inside our dashboard, I'm not going to go through all the functionality. Today's session is not about the whole platform, but one of the new pieces of functionality is this, what we call BAS 360, Breach Attack Simulation 360. This is just a sample dashboard. And so let me just give you a quick overview of this. So what you can see across the top is all the different abilities that it has seen, the different types of adversaries, different operations. So just a quick summary across the top. How many hosts are actually involved here? Again, this is a demo environment, so you're not going to see a ton of hosts. And then it just gives you some statistics across all the top 10 tactics that were used, the success rates, operational status, and so forth. Down here, you can see, so we've sort of helped you look at the different markets, the different, attackers, some usually target different sectors, right? So it's financial, manufacturing, government. Today we're focusing on government because this is, again, a state actor. You can see the one we're talking about, APT31. One of the nicknames is zirconium, if I'm saying that right. I don't know where they come up with these names. But so that's the particular attack that we're looking at today that we've simulated. Okay. So again, just to get a nice overview of all the different things, all the different tests that you've run here. You could have run, many different APT tests in your environment. So if we go in here, the way this works is you actually go in, again, as I said, and you deploy on a particular host, right? So you either create a new host or you pick a host, you load the BAS agent, as you can see right here. You load that onto the host. Now again, it's going to simulate the attack. It's going to take the actions that an attacker would. It's not actually going to do it. It's not going to actually copy out any files. It's not going to encrypt anything. It's simply going to be trying the techniques that type of attack would use in your environment to make sure that your security posture is able to detect them. So if we now come down here and we actually see a run, so you can see we have all these different APTs that are available to you. This one's already been run, so I'm just going to open up this one. This is the one we're talking about today. And now what it's going to show you is all the different techniques. Okay, so how many were total out of the multiple hundreds that are available? How many were used in this attack? How many were executed, which is bad, right? If it gets executed, that means you didn't catch it. How many were blocked? Okay, so you can come in here, you can click on those, and now I can look through all the different techniques that the agent ran that your system didn't catch. Okay, maybe just as important, and more importantly, here's all the ones that it caught. And again, here's an example of when I said that, you're only going to detect with net flows, which we use is spear phishing, right? So this one was blocked. So very powerful tool in terms of helping you. It's not a full penetration test, right? But it actually helps you do a very good job of simulating a penetration test, going in and making sure your environment is as up to date as possible, is providing as much protection as possible. And if you run these tests, you find where your vulnerabilities are. Ideally, you're going to go in, you're going to correct them so that you have a much more protected system. I'm not showing it here, but we actually have our own EDR agent. We run EPP as well. And when you run that in what we call aggressive mode, where it actually will take action, it does an excellent job of detecting all these different techniques and stopping them. We haven't done that here because we have to just simulate and show you that some of them were still executed. Okay, but running our EDR and EPP, these would have been detected, would have given you the ability to go and stop them. Okay, with that, we're gonna move to the second part of the demo, which is what you can do, what you're gonna need to be doing in the future to be able to monitor, detect, and actually maybe take corrective action against AI agents in the environment that are actually doing malicious things. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chandra, who hopefully is here, and he's going to show you some exciting new stuff that's being worked on.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you so much. And I hope people are kind of listing their set of the questions. So as I'm pretty sure everybody on this call knows that AI is going to be playing a big role. It has been playing, and its role is going to be accelerating a lot. And organization will have a lot of AI agents running into their own environment, whether it's cloud or on-prem, their endpoints, and so on and so forth. And that themselves need a continuous real-time monitoring to make sure that, accidentally or purposefully nobody is leaking out the information, confidential information, which is not supposed to go out there to any public large LLMs in the hyper cloud or so, if it is not required. So there is a compliance guardrails and all that. Another thing which you have to keep in mind that even though these LLMs are also kind of going to be helping on increasing the every organization productivity and so on and so forth. There are certain things threat actors are also going to use it for. So they will be able to, even no matter how many guardrail you put it in there, they will be able to go ahead and do certain things which nobody has imagined. Because what you will be able to do is you can combine multiple LLMs together, and all of a sudden you can create something which is very damaging attacks and all that. So you are able to do that as well. So what Seceon is doing is, one thing is definitely we detect those multi LLMs related attack based on the behaviors and many other things out there. But on top of that, we have something very powerful coming up, and I just wanted to share with everyone that, hey, what we are doing for that purpose. So once you guys see my screen, just let me know. So any organization, I just want to start
We're
with
seeing it
first.
now.
Yeah. Any organization, if you are kind of whether you are using the LLMs in there, whether you are using on the endpoints, you are using in your environment, you will be able to see what is the authorized ones which are running into your private network, what is in the public network, those can be authorized as well. And you might have a shadow stuff which are running in there, which are not authorized, but people are using it. And sometimes there is a legitimate reason they are using it for. So I will just kind of point out that, some of these can be like, you want to have a policy, what can be run in your organization, what cannot be run, what can be shared and what cannot be shared. So this is like my real machine, we are looking into it. I have not registered it, so it's not a registered, but all the activity it is doing, you can kind of decide to look into what it is doing, and you can also block it as well. That's right. So that should be under the organization control. So uh, any endpoints, devices, servers, and all that your organization own, whether they are in private network, public network, you can you are able to monitor all the activities, whether they are happening on a like your desktop agent, whether they are happening through the browsers, how they are going into your like outside your organizations and all that, and sometimes what they are doing as well, because you should be able to do so that way you are able to not only kind of like make sure that information which does not have to leave your organization then leave, but also you are able to monitor them carefully as well. And you should also know that, hey, what is the volume which is going in and out there? That's right. So if you look into the My Agent over here, once I click it, it shows that, there is an arrow over here. It is showing that, hey, I'm going into these three on the top. If you look into, I'm going into the like, cloud. I'm going into the like a cloud over here is like Anthropic, Google, Gemini, and also if I go over here, you'll see I'm going to like chat GPT as well. Okay, so you are able to see those. And if I go into over here on the incident point of view, it also shows like, hey, what it is doing. So if you look into, if I'm using Safari to go to the cloud, so then it's saying, hey, I'm using Safari to go to the cloud in there, then certain agent kind of like I have it like on my machine directly. So it's monitoring even those activities as well in there. So you are able to see all of those things which are happening out there. Same time, it's like point is like, look, it's one thing is able to kind of what we are calling this is like this is going to be in the Seceon platform. We'll launch it in the Q2. So right now we are securing uh, that agent-based attacks and all that in there. We are recognizing the agents, but just to kind of make sure that even your agent army in any organization is also being monitored, and you have a policy where you can go ahead and secure them. So you can define your policies that, hey, what are the policies I want to have it in there, which are the agent are authorized, and also you should be able to see that what they are doing exactly and all that. So any of those ones you want to go in, you are able to define those and take it like, you want to do the audit log, you want to do the classification, what is going on, all that in there. So all those capabilities you are able to execute on. Similarly, one thing I want to make sure that, I was mentioning over here, the incident, you are able to monitor the incident. If these were like, not in the shadow, you want to have a log, but there's no point you to kind of generate the incident and alert and take actions on those, because once you click it over here, you are able to also take investigations and actions and all that. You are able to walk through those ones in there as well. So you'll have that deep kind of a capability to drive the actions on those ones as well. Okay. Similarly, from the compliance point of view, that also you want to make sure that, hey, what they are able to do, what they are not doing, what is not into your compliance. So you are also able to define those. If there is some encryptions are missing, or you have a like, quarterly access policies review have not conducted, it will be kind of logging those ones in there. Same thing for SOC GDPR, your SOC 2 GDPR, your HIPAA, PCI DSS, and any other compliances. You understand that we have a compliance framework, so you are able to bring those ones in over here as well. So that way you are able to kind of go ahead and make sure that those are all being covered as well. So this will be a module inside the platform. So you don't have to come in and just like, play with the ADMP. ADMP is basically is like your AI agent, like detections. It detects which agents are being used. So you don't have to tell which agents you are using. The platform had the capability to detect which agents are being used in your organization and which one are authorized and which one are not authorized. That's what you are defining into your set of rules and policies. And then anything outside of those will be called shadow agent. And those you can see what are all the activities happening over here. As you saw in my case over here, so my agent was doing some is like a Google Gemini activity, it is doing some cloud activities, and so on and so forth. And it gives you in the detail, means like whether it is running on the browser or whether it is running locally on your host. So you are able to see those ones in there. Other big thing is also we have the capability to also do your DLP on the agent. So if somebody is like, copying and pasting something on the agent, whether it is being run from your browser or it is being run into your uh, as a desktop application, you will be also able to see that, hey, there is a DLP related issues out there. And especially certain things you can point out that, hey, if you are looking into from the uh, PII, PHI kind of a data, which you should not be leaking out, it will not only detect it, but you can block it as well. So you will be able to do the blocking as well in there. So that's something we are kind of like, also bringing into the platform, because this has become very important that you should be able to now detect and also real-time remediation actions on those kind of activities, because people will make a mistake sometimes unknowingly, and sometimes it's like people can also inject the things into your prompt to do certain things which is not normal, or you have never expected it to be done and all that. So you have to be ready to do your protection against the prompt injections, and then somebody is trying to do certain things which is not even required. One other big things I want to point out is you have to be aware that it's like threat actors, as I mentioned, they can use multiple LLMs to generate threats, which if you try to do with one LLM, you cannot do it, because one LLM itself, they will do the guardrails, okay? And so with those guardrails, they will kind of detect that, hey, you are trying to do some malicious stuff. Like, let's say if you want to find out the all well-known vulnerabilities and all that, you can start with the intention that, hey, I want to know these vulnerabilities, so I want to create a tool to make sure those ones I find out I don't have it in my environment. And then after that, I just want to kind of run a test to find out. And then you can say, hey, if it happens, what can be damage can be done. So you can see lateral movement, data collection, exfiltrations, and all those. But if you try to do with one tool, they will suspect that, hey, this is not right thing to do. Or they may say, okay, you are making certain tool and all that in there, but mostly they will flag you. They will flag you, will be monitored. But what you do is, if you break those chunks into the multiple kind of prompts at the different LLMs and let them create their tools and all that in there, and then what like people are doing, the threat actors are doing, is taking all of those, and they might have a local LLMs which will do the assembly for it. And what the local LLM means is you can have a device which might run one of those open source LLMs like Mistral, or many other ones is like Llama V3, V4, many others ones are there. So they can have them do assembly, and they may not understand what they are completely doing, and they will use that to even do the testing as well. So it's the world is getting pretty dangerous. That's the kind of the in nutshell that all of these things can happen within, it's uh, like half an hour to a few hours, 2, 3 hours, which used to take months and years to do it. So that's something always have to be kept in mind. And we have been on it, it's like, and that's why we decided that, hey, look, whether you are doing it locally or whether you are doing into using the public stuff and all that, we want to make sure that your organization, we are able to definitely detect all the LLMs are in the use in your environment, and all the malicious activities will always detect, so we are going to detect those ones in there. The goal is to detect early steps and stages of what matter attack framework Tom was showing it earlier, that you have all those different kind of like steps and stages, and ensure that we are able to kill them before it's too late in the game. Okay. So that's what basically I wanted to kind of share with you guys and take some questions, because we want to take some question and answer it as well. Okay.
So, hey, Chana, thank you very much. I just want to highlight what Chana just showed you. I mean, in my travels, talking with customers, partners, it shows this is one of the biggest concerns people have right now, the proliferation of these LLMs. Everybody's using them in their companies now, but people are really starting to get worried about, okay, is my internal data going to be able to be stolen, shared publicly because of how people are using them? So the ability to monitor what's going on with all the different LLMs in your environment, control which ones are used and which ones aren't, and be able to detect activities that weren't intentional or nefarious. It's really vital. So this is something people are really worried about, and what Chandra just showed you is something that obviously we're trying to get ahead of the game here and be able to provide people that protection. So this is really important, and it's just going to get more and more important. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that, Chandra.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. And one thing I do wanted to mention to the team, you see, like let's say in this organization, you have 34 agents and 15 of them are shadow. The point is, this is not an unrealistic picture out there, because everyone knows now that the agents are being used extensively into the most of the organization where people are somewhat technical. They are using the agents. Okay. And it's not a bad thing, but you do want to make sure that, hey, the shadow agents are not the one which are being used. You want to make sure that, hey, whatever is authorized, you are using those ones in there. So your goal is to detect those shadows and educate your workforce, just like to make sure they stop using the shadows agents and all that in there. And the reason I wanted to show you that my machine in there, because as you can see, all of those three, whether it's OpenAI or looking into the Anthropic on the top, you can guys, I'm pretty sure you guys are able to see the three arrows going out on the north. Those are the one I'm talking about. Those are the real connections I have right now. So that agent is definitely communicating with them and all that. And that's why you see over here, those incidents, those are the one which are coming in there. That's right. So if I go into and do certain things on the cloud, even on the browser, I want it to be kind of a detected. So that way the organization knows that, hey, this is something which does not make sense and all that. So that's something is like very critical, as Tom pointed out. If you are not doing it, eventually what is going to do it. So see here, this was a cursor was going into there. This guy is using the OpenAI. This is using your cloud, and this anti-gravity is all the Google Gemini stuff and all that in there. So that's what is happening in this case. So it's really critical that we kind of from the cybersecurity industry point of view, have a solution which is not only detecting after the fact, but discovering it and making sure before it causes significant amount of damage, you start monitoring and then enforcing the policies. So that way people either knowingly, unknowingly, or even the threat actors, if they're trying to do some activities, detect those kill those into early kind of like steps and stages so the damage is kind of minimized. Otherwise, there is a very good chance because all these agents definitely ask you to kind of authorize to read everything from your device. And eventually, what does it means? That they have unrestricted access, like access to all of the content you have in the organization. And anybody, if like have a bad intention, uh, they will be able to just like easily collect everything and just take the data out of the organization and you will not be able to know. So previously, whatever we are calling it exfiltrations and all those activities needed to be done, here you are able to do it using the agent which you happily kind of like started using in your organization. So you were the conduit which made it possible to be done something which can be major damage for any organization. Tom, go ahead and let's kind of like continue, and if there are some questions we'll love to answer those as well.
Yeah, so let's bring Maggie back in. I think she's the
Yep.
one managing the questions. Thanks, Maggie.
Oop, sorry. There we go. So yeah, we had a few questions come in actually. First question was from Eric Singleton. Is the platform monitoring AI agent threats from multiple layers, such as 3, 4, 7?
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what we were showing it over here,
Yeah.
that, it's like monitoring all the way. Even if you have like, like let's say if you went in and you have Olama or VLLMs running into your bare metal, we are detecting those ones as well at your GPU level, and we are able to bring that into the actions as well. So it's not only that, it's like what is running outside, but even in your organization, somebody is like, let's say, is not authorized to run DeepSeek or Mistral or Quen and all that. And if they are running in the organization, platform is also able to detect those ones in there and surface it that, hey, these are the things running in your organization. You might have not authorized it as well. So that's something you also, and one thing I do want to point out that this is a great question because what threat actor can do is threat actor, if they get the access to some of those hardware infrastructure you have in your environment, what they can do is forget about going anywhere else. They can access that and create a threat, like a complete assembly of the like kill chain of the any of the attack can be built into your own environment and can be launched from there and use the secure tunnel to take all of the data out. One of the biggest thing is, see, any of the organization, there is a multiple things you worry about. So you worry about, it's like a breachage, you worry about like a compliance, but many organization has to worry about is also that your intellectual property, your threat kind of a secret, your PII, personally identifiable kind of like information, your PHI, like a health informations, and those have a huge value. If you are a bank, you have to worry about that, somebody getting access to all of the like your banking data and so on. So your client list, and even if they get access to account, that can be even more damaging as well in there. And those, the question was is like, hey, are we able to do it from all the way from the layer 2 to layer 7, from the going from the metal layer all the way to the layer 7? Yes, that's very important things to do. And if you don't do it, you are going to be surprised at some time. It's like not everybody will attack at the layer 2 and layer 3 yet, but those things are not far-fetched from coming into the picture as well. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Okay.
We had a few
Make
other
sense?
questions
Any
too.
additional questions?
Yes, we do. We have one from Marwan Alakris, what is your false positive, false negative rate? Can you provide real benchmark data? And what's the detection
Yeah,
latency?
so look, yeah, that's fine. So latency point of view, definitely we are looking to do it into like, few millisecond. That's what basically we are shooting for. And most of the time you can do it. It's like you can never always kind of like, say that, hey, I will be able to do into the few millisecond and all that. But your goal is as minimum as possible and mostly below 500 millisecond point of view. As far as the false positive is concerned, because you see, there are a couple of things you want to keep in mind in there. You want to always show the truth, what is happening in your organization. That's right, because truth is like really important. And then the truth can be interpreted that sometimes, people say, yeah, this truth, I don't want to kind of, I know it and don't worry about it. So it's always having a platform or solution where you are able to say that, hey, look, this is allowed my environment. Do not kind of like show it to me. And that is just something we always do. So you can say that, hey, whatever we show, 100% is the truth, what is happening in your environment in there. As far as whether they are threat or not, your goal is to keep it like, 95%, like, remove those false positive by 95%. Sometimes some organization, even though it's like they may not be taking action, but they want to know what is going in their organization as well in there, so they will decide that, hey, even though this might be a noise, but it's kind of like a fact which we want to know. So just like, take an example in my case. Okay, so it shows that, hey, I'm using those three services. Somebody say, yeah, it's like this is Chandra. He's kind of, I don't know what he's goofing up and all that. Let him goof. That's right. So that might be like, yeah, I'm not going to bother and ask him what he's up to and all that in there. That's right. That might be your organization policies. Certain organization, no, no, no. If Chandra is doing that, he has access to a lot of like, very critical information, and threat actors can take advantage and they can kind of like pretty much cripple us down. That's right. So it can be up to that as well in there. So our point is like, look, we want to show the source of the truth and minimize the noise. So you have to not kind of like a deal with a lot of noise, because if you have too much noise, you are not looking at anything. That's right. So that's something you want to keep in mind. And then you can also kind of say that, hey, it's like, hey, first time it kind of show it, but then instead of generating separate alert, you want to collapse into one alert that, hey, Chandra using these three application and putting it out there. So once you go and like it has been already triaged for you upfront. So once you are taking action to apply a policy on Chandra, that policy get applied across all of those alerts, because those alerts are related with each other. He's using Claude, he's using OpenAI, he's using like Gemini. So once you apply the policy, is make sure that the same policy takes care of all the three, and now he has to kind of like go through the registered path, so we are able to do as well in there. So goal is to like reduce the false positive always by 95% on our own. And then we also give the options where you can go ahead and put your own kind of like policy in the place that, hey, these are the things don't show me. So you can get it all the way to the like where you don't have to deal with any noise stuff based on your own organization requirements. Okay.
Yeah, let me add my 2 cents here, Chandra. So, what I have found in typical deployments is, when you first deploy, you're going to get some false positives, just because there's some things going on in your environment that might fit an attack pattern that we built into the platform, but in your particular case, it's not. For instance, I had a partner who did a lot of PowerShell scripting, right? Well, PowerShell scripts quite often can be part of an attack, can be nefarious. So we were getting we were getting alerts for things that included those PowerShell scripts that they said, well, wait, those aren't real alerts. So what you simply can then go in is and tune the platform with something we call trusted threat indicators, where you can say, okay, this activity, this particular PowerShell script running on this host this is not a malicious activity. Don't treat it as such going forward, and you'll clean up those false positives. So again, it's important that you have the ability to tune down the false positives per your particular environment.
All right. Thank you very much, Marwan. We had a question now from I apologize. Srinivasan Ganeshan. Thanks, Chandra and Tom. Great session. Two questions from me. One, are installing BAS agents mandatory? Are there any other options? And two, how was the AI agent topology created for an organization? Is this app based or Seceon generates based on a scan or telemetry?
Yeah.
And the question is in the Q&A if you want to see it written.
Yeah. I think that's so. I think two parts to the question was there. Is one thing was just like the BAS agent. Yeah, definitely you have to use our own BAS agent to conduct your breach attack simulations because there is
Hey,
many
Chandra,
things. Yeah.
just a quick interruption, but just so I'm clear, it's just one. It's not, you don't have to put it on every endpoint. You just put it on one endpoint, right? And it simulates an endpoint that has been breached. So, and you can actually create a test endpoint to do it. You don't have to put it on one of your active endpoints.
Yeah. I think Tom, that's a very good point you answered it. So you don't have to kind of, as Tom pointed out, you can create one or two BAS agent in that, but that BAS agent is getting set of the instructions and communicating with the backend. So you have to use the Seceon BAS agent because it has a lot of schema and telemetry going back and forth between the agent and the backend. So that was one question. And then second question is I think that was mostly, if I understood it, I might have misunderstood it, that when you have the ADMP and all that in there, that agent kind of detections, monitoring, and then real-time remediations and all that in there, that's like protection. What you definitely does not have to do anything if you have our solution. What it is going to do is it's going to detect it. One thing you have to keep in mind, not all the telemetry you can just get it from the network. So you have to have it, it's like organization, whether either you do it a standalone kind of like a agent. Some certain things will detect without even having the agent and all the like network related stuff you have, because we are taking the data from your firewall, your DNS, your DHCP, and all that. So we are able to kind of know what you have it in there and where they are going. So that's one thing. Now, the question, which was a deeper question, which was asked earlier in there, what is happening on that particular specific device, and whether you are using it from the bare metal side point of view, that bare metal GPUs and all that, or whether you are doing into having a agent, which is a desktop agent, whether you are using the browser, all of that information cannot be captured just by the network. Certain things you can capture, but then there is a lot of things you want to know exactly what is happening on that particular specific device and all that. That does requires a agent in there, and that agent does not have to be just ADMP agent. That agent is also part of our XDR agent as well. So that XDR agent has the extension to make sure that you are able to bring all those telemetry as well. And those telemetry is not just to kind of what we are saying into this dashboard, because this telemetry is also going directly into our bigger picture correlation point of view, because we don't just kind of give you a standalone product and hand over to you like a 50 different product. These are module. At the end, all these things are being correlated together on a bigger picture of your organization into our something big coming up, but we already had it always that, it's like SERI, your threat detections, correlations, and remediation. So that is something is also going into that. So all the telemetry you see over here, this telemetry is collapsing into the threat detections and then remediation, which is taking place based on that, SOAR 4.0, which is our Gen AI based SOAR building. So you don't have to write any code. You can just write simple language based, like, hey, what do you want to achieve? And it will have you approve before it does anything about it. By the way, that was a great question, and I really appreciate somebody taking a time to asking that.
Absolutely agree. So we have a few more. One is from Wilson Darshi asking, is the vulnerability possible even if we have firewall, antivirus, and EDR configured on-prem setup?
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's always possible now because it's like vulnerability. If you look into any software you have developed or any like applications you have, they always have the vulnerability because you see somebody said long time back and still it's like it's never going to be the case that where you have something which does not have a vulnerability. You can minimize as much you want, but there will be always some vulnerability. There's some application you may say that you are not able to find the vulnerability today because how you kind of go and find the vulnerability today. Uh, 3, 4 years down the line, that application will have vulnerability which can be easily exploited. These days, the basic example is, we talk about that encryption. So you have SHA 256, 512, and 1024. SHA 128 is getting kind of retired. Most of the people have retired. MD5 is getting retired, and so on and so forth. If you look into those things, probably 10 years back, they were very solid encryption, but now those encryption are seen as a vulnerable encryptions, which can be easily decoded. Now, even there is a big talk going on, and there is a lot of truth to it. But when you have that quantum come into the picture, those will be very easy to break. So it's a very simple example, but there is thousands of other things in there that it's like which are vulnerable, not vulnerable today, but it will be found to be vulnerable few years down the line. So that always you should keep in mind that hey, those things are going to be there, and that's why it's a continuous process. It's not one set and done. You see, cybersecurity, one thing we always talk about, and everybody should know, cybersecurity is just something, it's not a functional business that you do some functionality and you say, hey, this functionality is working and this is a good. Now you can use that functionality and you are happy. Most of the application, most of and when you use firewall, router, switches, uh, they kind of have a functional role to play. They interrupt certain things, they do certain things, and you are happy that they made their route table, they made their forwarding table, and boom, you are up and running, and like you are happy with them. Cyber security, especially the domain we work on, is evolving. It's always, it's like we can never say we are done with our work because you are not doing just like a functional. You have to do the functional part, but you have always keep in mind that your threat actor and APTs. We were just talking today about the APTs 31. If you look into it, it's they are always evolving. They are always looking into that. It's what are the things they can start exploiting it and how they can go without being detected and all that in there. Because you see, APT goal is not always to they are not looking to just get some ransomware. There are rarely few of them just look for ransomware, but most of them are looking to steal a lot more than what you can get just by ransomware. So they are looking to steal very critical informations and use it for something big. Sometimes if you are a let's say company which does a lot of R&D, you can spend billions of dollars doing the R&D, and if your intellectual property gets stolen, you are pretty much is doomed at that point. Same thing, trade secret, national secrets, and so on and so forth in there. So you always have to think about cybersecurity is your competition is not a company A and B and C you know about. Your competition is those threat actors and APT and you have to keep on innovating to make sure that you catch them into the, like, early stage of the acts. So they're able to stop it, and then it does not causes you much of the damage. Otherwise, if you let them kind of persist into your environment, not only they will take your information, but they will just have a home at your place, and they can come anytime, and any new things you are doing, they can be stealing that all the time and you don't know about it. Sometimes, if you have a national secret, that can be any planning you are doing, and those planning can be stolen before everybody else knows about it, that hey, this is what you are up to, and so on and so forth in there. So that's something, it's always have to keep in mind. So the key is, like, vulnerability are here, they are going to be here. Your goal is to minimize as much possible. Make sure that you are kind of doing your patching and all that at a fast cliff in there. Not everything can be patched and all that in there as well, because there are certain things which might be out of life or support as well. So you have to keep in mind that, hey, how you build the layer around that, so that cannot be exploited as well in there. So you have to keep in mind, and that is very common into the case of, like, OT environment, because there are gears which runs for a long period of time. It's like, and you might be running it for 10, 15, 20 years, because you have a manufacturing plant, you have a power plant, you have infrastructure, which might be is like, your distribution network for power or transmission network, where you cannot go, and you have some devices which like running Windows XPs and embedded Windows OS, which are not supported at all. How you are going to kind of patch it? So you have to build the layer around it to make sure that, it's like those vulnerabilities cannot be exploited as well. I know it was a long answer, but I think the question was really good. And I think we wanted to make sure that whatever we know, we put it out there.
Absolutely. Well, actually, with that, I think we've run out of time. I think maybe we can direct people who still have questions to write to our LinkedIn and message us there for answers.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that would be good. Thank
Okay,
you. Thank
great.
you so much, everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you again. If we didn't get to your question, please come to our Seceon LinkedIn page and send us a message there. We'll be happy to respond. With that, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Chandra, for your insights and for your explanations today and for the great demo. And thank you, everyone who joined us and participated in the discussion. This brings us to the conclusion of our 2026 Cyber Battlefield webinar series. Over the past several sessions, we've explored how threats are evolving across identity, supply chain, compliance, and now AI-driven adversaries and what it takes to stay ahead. We really appreciate you spending this time with us and being part of the series. As a reminder, you'll receive the recordings from today's session along with access to previous sessions if you'd like to revisit any of the content. And if you have any follow-up questions or you'd like to continue, again, please reach out to us on LinkedIn. Again, thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your day.